A very good morning to all of you from India, and my greetings to all of you who are logging in from all over the world. And I feel so delighted to see so many taking this amazing interest in trying to work on their lives, transform their lives, and therefore help transform the world. I truly feel greatly privileged and honored to be able to offer some small service to all of you. And I sincerely, from the deepest core of my heart, want to express my gratitude. I want to thank all of you for taking your time out every morning for this participating in this 21 days habit challenge. Welcome all of you to our third day of the 21 days habit challenge. Just a quick recapitulation of what we discussed yesterday. In our reflection yesterday, we were talking about how habits are formed. We do a certain action. That action leaves a deep mental imprint or sanskara on our minds, which makes us repeat that action. That repeated action makes a deeper mental imprint, and we repeat it because of that imprint. That action once again leaves that deep mental imprint or sanskara, and we go into that loop of action, imprint, and over a period of time, these repeated patterns of actions coupled with this deep mental imprint or sanskara is what we call a habit or a conditioning. It happens over a period of time. And we discussed yesterday that if we were to get out of this habit and uncondition ourselves, we have to do exactly the opposite of what we did earlier. We have to refrain from it. We have to keep away from it and not make those deeper imprints henceforth. And that unconditioning takes a while. And like we discussed yesterday, 21 days happens to be the time where most life coaches, management gurus say that we can work on our habits. But I think it's not necessarily 21 days. The time needed to get out of our habits depends on several factors. And two very important factors are, number one, how deep is the habit and how long have we been in it for. The deeper the habit and the longer we've been with it, it's going to take a while. And second, how intense are our efforts to deal with that habit. The stronger our efforts, the more focused our efforts, the more intense our efforts, we'll probably end up dealing with it more effectively, quicker. So yes, it's going to be way more than 21 days. 21 days is just the time that we touch on it and prepare ourselves to deal with it and get rid of those bad habits that we have gotten into. And yesterday we also discussed those micro installments that we need to make in order to deal with those habits, and not so we bring micro changes for a macro transformation. So yeah, it takes a while. Stick out. 21 days is just the beginning. I always tell the story of how once a father called 3 of his sons and told each of them, gave a task to each of them. He told one of the sons, "Can you look at that sapling in the garden? I want you to go pull that sapling and bring it to me." The father said, "I'm going out of town, so by the time I come back tomorrow morning, I want you to bring this sapling to me." He said to the second son, "Can you see that bush in the garden? I want you to uproot that bush and bring it to me. When I come back tomorrow, I want to see that bush in our house." And he told the last son, "Can you see that tall, huge tree standing in our garden? Son, I want you to uproot that tree and bring that tree to our house, and I want to see it when I come back tomorrow morning." All the 3 boys were at their tasks. When the father returned the next morning, the first son had brought the sapling, the second one had brought the bush, the third one had brought the tree. The father asked each of them to share their experience. The first one said, "Father, it took hardly any time, just a couple of seconds to uproot that sapling, and within a few minutes I was in our house with the sapling." The second son said, "Dad, the bush was a little harder to deal with. its roots had gone a little deeper, and so it wasn't as easy, but not as difficult as well. Within a couple of hours, I could just pull it out and bring it to the house. When the third son reported what he had to go through, he said, "Dad, the roots of this tree had gone so deep within the ground that it took me tremendous amount of hard work and almost over 20 hours to uproot the tree and literally, with the help of a couple of people, drag it into our house." The father turned to the three boys and said, "Sons, this is exactly how habits are. When they are just in their initial phase, like a sapling, when the roots haven't even started going within the system, you can pull out those habits with great ease and with hardly any effort. When they grow a little deeper and turn into a bush, and as the roots have gone a little deeper inside, it's going to get slightly harder and will take a little more time, but you can still pull it out, not with that much effort. But when the roots go deep into our system and sink into our entire existence, like the tree, it's going to take a lot of hard work and probably a lot of time as well to pull it out. Ladies and gentlemen, if any of you are just in the phase of the sapling part of your habit, the sapling phase of your habits, rip them out quickly. You wouldn't have to put too much effort and not give too much time to deal with them. If you find yourself somewhere in the bush phase of your habits, start now. It'll require a little extra effort, but you'll still be able to deal with it much quicker. And if you're in the tree phase of your habits where they've gone deep into the system because of having done it for a long time, well, with hard work and time, we can still pull them out. So yes, we need to give a lot of intense effort and time to be able to uproot those habits which have entered into the tree phase of our lives. On day 3, I want to leave you with a third reflection, which is also very crucial and important, I believe. As soon as we decide to do something that is right, as soon as we decide to live by what is right, we are going to be tested for it. If we do something that's wrong, that's not much of a test really. We wouldn't be tested so much for doing wrong. But when we decide to do what is right, live by the right, surely, most certainly, we're going to be tested for it. I'm sure when you made those micro installments from yesterday, you may have noted how the tests begin. I follow the Bhakti Yoga tradition, in particular the Gaudiya Vaishnava school, where we worship Radha and Krishna, Nitai Gaur. And one of the months that Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the Bhakti Yogis of the Krishna tradition, hold very sacred is Kartik. This month of Kartik represents the Divine Mother Sri Radha and her grace. And devotees of Radha Krishna, they make resolves, they make vows to offer something to the Lord. Some chant more, some pray more, some do more seva or service, some read the scriptures, yet others make a resolve or vow to stop eating something or to make certain vows to give up certain habits. One year in Kartik, I remember I made a resolve, I made a vow that I would stop eating all sweets for one full month. And guess what? The day of Kartik, the day when it began, the beginning of the month, it's between October and November, the first day of the month of Kartik, at 8 a.m. a friend came to meet me. This friend was from Mumbai. He had gone to Switzerland and returned back. So after returning back to Switzerland, on the morning of the first day of Kartik at 8 o'clock, he came to see me. And guess what? He brought me some special gifts. 5 boxes of Lindt, Lindor, white chocolate, truffles. Just the night before I had decided and made a resolve that I would not take sweets for the 1 month beginning tomorrow for the month of Kartik. And as soon as the day of Kartik began, the very first thing in the morning, I was tested. When you decide to do the right thing, we are going to be tested. I asked him, when did you return back from Switzerland? He said, 4 days back. And in my heart, I thought, man, you got back 4 days prior. Couldn't you just come to see me 4 days back? I just said it in my heart. And even if you would have come one night earlier, I would have tried some of this lentil or white chocolate truffles, But he came just the day when I'd started my vow and my resolve. As soon as he left, I had 4 or 5 boxes of lentil or white chocolate truffles sitting in front of me on the table. And now I had a choice to listen to my lower self and indulge, or listen to my higher self and improve. The more we listen to our lower self, we feed the lower self, we make it stronger. And every time we listen to our lower self and make it stronger, we're going to repeat that action, that habit again and again by listening to it. The more we learn how to listen to our higher self to improve, we pass the test. We're going to be stronger to resist that temptation. Every single time there's a temptation I decide not to indulge in, and I'm tested for it, with the same temptation coming to me, and I say a no, I'm rewarded by God with the strength to say a no the second time. When the next time the same temptation comes, from the last time I'm a bit stronger, and with that strength I say no again, I'm rewarded with more strength. The next time when the same temptation comes, I'm stronger to say a no. And in this way, every single time I say a no to that temptation and pass the test, my higher self becomes stronger, and I am in a better position to resist those temptations and deal with those habits. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we all have a choice. As you've made those tiny micro installments which we will be reviewing at the end of the 5 days, we will all be tested whether to listen to the lower self and indulge with the temptation that comes to you, or listen to your higher self and improve in dealing with your habits. Indulgence or improvement, the choice is yours. And certainly you may have experienced those temptations come to you. For example, you decide, I want to quit this habit of, yelling at people, becoming a victim of anger. And the day you decide to keep quiet, the day you decide to control yourself, that very day there are certain triggers, certain impulses around you which provoke you so much that you feel impelled to yell. A test. The day you decide that I want to quit this habit of fault finding in others, the very day you decide that you're tested, people around you are just going to be doing wrong. And it's a test, an impulse, a trigger, to see how serious you are about not giving in. You decide to deal with your social media addiction. The very day you decide that I'm going to cut down my social media indulgence because I want to prioritize a lot of other things. That very day your boss may give you so much work that all day you're on your laptop or your phone and you just feel so tempted to look at the Facebook. Or, I'm sorry, we are on Facebook already. You're tempted to look at it. Everything has its utility, but overindulgence kills, right? Yes, we will all be tested. My third reflection is this. The choice is yours to listen to your lower self or your higher self. To indulge or to improve. If you decide to listen to your higher self, to improve, rather than giving into your lower self and indulge, you will see yourself getting stronger to deal with the habit that you've chosen to chuck aside and leave behind before you enter the new year. And this reward of inner strength is the greatest reward that we can have in dealing with our habits. Yet, I also have a suggestion. And the suggestion is this. Every single time you feel yourself victorious in resisting that temptation, also learn to reward yourself. For example, if I would stay away from sweets for 3 weeks, if that's what I'm dealing with, after 3 weeks, I would reward myself with a tiny little sweet or maybe something else, and not to form a habit again. In a constructive way, I would reward myself so that there is an inspiration to work on resisting this temptation. Whatever that reward could be for you, but that reward should be constructive. It should be spaced nicely so that it doesn't turn into a habit itself. And it should just be an inspiration so that you can work on resisting that temptation now. Rewards are only needed for children, really. As we'll have children who will say, if I pass the tests and if I pass the exams, what are you going to give me, Dad? Will you give me an iPad? Will you give me an iPhone X? Will you give me a Apple Watch? Children need rewards to motivate them to work hard. But as they grow, that hard work is their reward itself. The pleasure that they derive from their hard work is the reward itself. They don't look for those physical rewards in order to continue on with their hard work. They don't look for those external rewards to keep going with their inspiration to work on what they're dealing with. So similarly, because we are in dealing with our habits, our mind is like a child. So those little rewards 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, after having reached the target of resisting those temptations for 3 weeks, could be helpful. A break to Kullu Manali, a holiday somewhere, or giving yourself your favorite watch, if you could afford it. Set a small, tiny, whatever reward you could to keep going with that inspiration to resist that temptation. But remember, it's only children who need that, and we need to grow slowly. Initially, we can have those rewards, but eventually our reward should be more just the pleasure and the inspiration of doing it right. One teenage boy, he turned 18 and he got his driving license. So he came to his father and said, Dad, when can I start driving your car? The father said, sure, you can drive the car, but only if you work on 3 things. Look at your grades, they are a C. If you move from C to A, I'll allow you to drive my car. Not just that. Look at yourself, you're not even reading the Bible. If you start reading the Bible, I'll allow you to drive the car. And not just that, look at your long hair. Now teenagers and youngsters love long hair, but traditionally elderly people don't like that kind of a thing. Said, look at your long hair, I want you to get a proper haircut. If you do all 3 of this, I'll allow you to drive my car. A couple of months later, the son went to the father asking him to give the keys to the car. The father took a review. He said, that's very nice, your grades have improved from C's to A's, fantastic. And wonderful, I've been observing that you've also started reading the Bible very regularly. But you still haven't given yourself a decent haircut. And therefore, unless and until you get a haircut, I'm not going to give you the keys to the car. The son said, wait, Dad, look, I've been reading the Bible. And in the Bible, Samson had long hair. John the Baptist had long hair. Even Jesus had long hair. So what's the problem if I have the long hair? The father turned to the son and said, my dear son, yes, Samson, John the Baptist, Jesus had long hair, but you should also have read that they walked everywhere they went. They did not drive their cars. Now, all fun and jokes apart, the fact of the matter is this. When we are younger, we need those external rewards to motivate ourselves to do the right thing. As we grow, the right thing itself becomes the reward. And therefore, day 3, our reflection is this. We are all going to be tested as we decide to do what is right, that micro installment of the temptation you're trying to avoid. It's your choice, whether to feed your lower self or your higher self, whether to indulge or to improve. Decide to feed your higher self. Decide to improve Every single time you say a no to that temptation, you're going to be rewarded with the strength to say a no again. Continue saying a no based on that strength, and one day you'll be so strong that the habit won't exist for you. Meanwhile, however, the second suggestion is this: decide to give yourself that little tiny reward, whatever that reward might be, because that would kind of keep you motivated for the next 3-4 weeks or even later. Decide to give yourself a reward that if you in 6 months quit this habit, here's what you would give yourself. But we all have to grow up, and as we grow up, the greatest reward is doing it right. The greatest reward is the pleasure, the satisfaction, the contentment of having lived by the right. The greatest reward is certainly the life that we are living is so beautiful that we can make it as an offering unto God. So day 3 reflection: tests will come, stay strong, say a no. And we'll take a review again after the 5 days that as I had promised and discussed yesterday, to see how we are doing with the micro installment that we had decided for changing our habit. Thank you all very much, and wish you a great day ahead.